Good evening.
Welcome, everyone, to our prayer
Summit.
With the topic of inclusivity today. Our practitioners are sharing their wisdom with us today, and we begin with Agnes Hill.
Thank you, Reverend Judith and Reverend Bob. And again, good evening to everyone. And this is, believe it or not, our fourth prayer summit. So we're moving right along there. So I have been a practitioner with religious science for over 15 years. And it really is an honor and a privilege to share with you the power of what we call affirmative prayer, or what we sometimes call spiritual mind treatment. And as these words imply, they were so brilliant by Ernest Holmes, this form of prayer changes your mind from fear to faith. And our founder, as I just meant, Ernest Holmes, taught us to ask and you shall receive. So before I begin my remarks, I'd like to do an invocation, and then I'm going to introduce our other prayer practitioner. So this evening, as we gather together, let us take a deep cleansing breath and release any cares and concerns of the day. Knowing that whatever's going on outside in the world, at this moment, we all are united in peace, love, and joy. Knowing the truth for each one of us, that there is a divine power for perfection and harmony in the universe, and everyone is part of that plan. So we know that this summit, this beautiful prayer summit, has already been blessed, and all of us on it, and all the people that will join us later, are open and receptive to the gifts and blessings. And we just receive that now with an open and loving heart. And now we can open our eyes, and it's with great pleasure that I introduce my dear friend and fellow practitioner, Jo Seiler, who's going to speak to you about her understanding and her use, and how affirmative prayer has helped her in her life. Jo Seiler, welcome.
Thank you so much, Aggie. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you everyone who may be tuning in later and who is on now. We appreciate it. You know, unless you live in one of the 17 states that now recognizes Indigenous Peoples Day, today is otherwise officially known as Columbus Day. Now, this is the day when we pay tribute to the adventure seekers in the Middle Ages. Now, those were the ones that did not believe the popular notion that the earth was flat. Now, whether or not Christopher Columbus was the original European founder of the New World, this holiday bears his name. Now, all of these adventurers were willing to go forward against the popular beliefs of their time. Their journeys were dangerous, and their success was often thwarted by dangerous circumstances that were unknown before they ventured out. It was difficult. So I began to wonder what would cause someone to have that curiosity and the determination to go beyond the accepted norm, to experience something that, quite actually unbeknownst to them at the time, it changed the maps, the education system, it changed the global landscape, and that it changed it for mankind forever. Because the earth actually was never flat. And it just took a bit of curiosity to reveal what was already there. Now, I do think they had an intuitive knowing that that was the case. But then I wondered, why didn't others go forward in that quest? Well, I think that what stops others from the quest is the same thing that stops you and me from our quest of our own inner exploration, and that is irregular and irrational fears. Now, what are irrational fears? Well, they are fears that have no concrete substance to them. They are born of no rational explanation. The fear that someone or something is lurking behind the horizon waiting to devour my ship was irrational. The stories of ships that never returned has a definite rational explanation. Now that we know that the earth was never flat. So our own fears then are often completely irrational. Fear of being around someone who has different skin color, it's irrational. Fear of people who have different lifestyles, people of other religions, nationalities, and basically anyone with whom we interact with has unfamiliar characteristics or lives that are lived other than our own, different lifestyles. That's irrational. People can be very, very fearful of the unfamiliar. Now, I know because there was a lot of irrational fear when I was younger inside me. I was only 18 and afraid to be out on my own. Well, I was afraid that I did not have enough skills to make a living, afraid that someone would abduct me or cause me physical harm. Now, I don't think that was too uncommon for the young women back then. We had that fear drummed into us. And what did I do? What a lot of women did. I married the first guy that caught my fancy, and I got divorced by the time I was 21. So once again, at that time, after the divorce, I was afraid. I had that same irrational fear of being on my own. Now, imagine how surprised I was to learn that I was able to get along quite well. So 6 months after my divorce, I realized I had nothing to be afraid. That was an irrational fear of the unknown. Now, technically, this fear is known as xenophobia. It's a fear of outsiders, actually, basically. And when taken to extreme, it can simmer and manifest as hatred and hostility toward members of another culture or religion. It's called basically the fear of strangers. In lay language today, we refer to that as prejudice. But by whatever name you call it, it is irrational fear. Now, where does this fear begin? Well, there's many cultural sources, and I'm sure you could study a multitude of positive factors. But so many fears come from the environments we grow up in, the places where we hear our elders voice their concerns, and yes, their own unexamined fears that they simply accepted all their lives, and that they pass on to their offspring. Now, you might recall the lyrics from the musical South Pacific. The tune was, "You've got to be taught." And there's a verse there that says, "You've got to be taught before it's too late, before you are 6 or 7 or 8, to hate all the people your relatives hate. You've got to be carefully taught." And that is how most of us develop our irrational fears. Now, here in CSL Palm Beaches, the Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Beaches, we are taught the same principles that can help anyone lose their irrational fears of people that they've been taught to hate or who are different than themselves. Now, we know that all people everywhere, we know that we're all made of the same stuff. That's scientific. This means that the core of every human being is no different than the core of you and me. So when we practice our affirmative prayer, or prayer treatment as we call it, we begin with that basic premise that we are one with the universal source and that everyone is one with that same source. Now, one day I realized this truth and the truth that follows. There are basically no outsiders. There never was, and there never will be. True, there are those with whom we would do well to avoid because they do not realize their divine essence. But that's not for you and me to decide. That's for them. So we do not have to be afraid to walk down a new street or to meet people who have different lifestyles. And we do not have to judge those who have different belief systems. Each and every person is worthy of respect, kindness, and the chance to show up as a friend, not a foe. Now, one evening in Miami, I was driving in an area that was new to me. Now, the neighborhood was actually considered dangerous, okay, by the evening newscasters. So my car developed a flat tire and I found myself driving on the rim. That was a very, very bad situation. At first, I began to be very concerned because of my irrational fears that a dangerous neighborhood equals certain and sudden disaster. But then I said an affirmative prayer. I knew that source was always within and around me. I knew that this source, or the universal power, was the power of good, and that the fact was that experiencing a flat tire did not change this truth. I also knew that the same good was present in everyone, everywhere. I didn't know exactly how the situation would change, but I knew that this experience was temporary. And it would change into resolution for my highest and best. So after this treatment, I calmed down a bit. And then I remembered that there was a religious science church, that's what we were called back then, in the neighborhood. The pastor was a very well-known African-American New Thought motivational minister whom I listened to on the radio from time to time, and I admired. You might have heard of him, Les Brown, wonderful motivational minister. Incredible as it seems, that his church was on the same road as me, and I could see it from my car. So I walked. The lights were on, and there were cars in the parking lot. So I got out of my car, and I walked to the church. Well, you can imagine how I felt when I walked into a group of smiling and helpful people who embraced me. And they even helped me get the tire changed. And they sent me on my way with wonderful good vibes. And that was forever, because I still think about it. You see, there was nothing to fear but the irrational fear that there was somehow separated from my good, and I was all alone in a bad neighborhood, surrounded by strangers. That was not true. So these teachings, along with the affirmative prayers, they help us each grow. They reveal the next step for us to take when it's needed. You can practice, and I would recommend that you do, the Science of Mind prayer treatments as a daily ritual before starting your day. And when you feel you need to have someone else hold your highest and best vision, please reach out to a practitioner. We're here to help. I'd like to close with an affirmation that is taken from the textbook of The Science of Mind, actually is the name of the textbook, and it was written by Ernest Holmes. It's entitled, There's No Misunderstanding. There are no misunderstandings. All is made clear between the ideas of good. No false sense of separation can come between people, nor disturb the realization of the unity of all life. I perceive that I am one with all people, and all are one with me. There is no separation. There is no separation. As a practitioner, I send you my own love and healing energy for whatever your needs are. And now I'd like to bring on Aggie to share her thoughts.
Hey, thank you, Joe, so much for sharing that story and your own personal journey using affirmative prayer. Very powerful. So, as you mentioned, and I will just mention briefly, this month we do celebrate men and women who ventured and discovered new lands. And we too can undertake a journey of discovery within ourselves. And this is probably the most exciting journey we can ever take, besides, not traveling, but this journey to find out who we really are. And we do this by delving into the mystery of God. But by studying God, we learn about ourselves. We are not limited beings, as many of us were taught when we were younger. We are magnificent beings. And sometimes that goes, what? Me? No, that can't be me. Yes, you, everyone. Affirmative prayer, over time, makes us aware of this truth. It may sound foreign at first, but you have to give it a try. It works, and it works every time because it changes our consciousness, our thoughts, and therefore those are the things that change our lives. It changes our actions, our decisions, our judgment. So we are taught, and we believe that there is a power and a presence that honors our request, whatever that is for health, abundance, love, self-expression. But we have to let go of the lesser to experience the greater. We have to stop seeing ourselves as small and limited. So as we gather together and we unite our hearts and minds, we open ourselves to the one mind, the mind of God. And then we expect and accept and receive greater wisdom, guidance, and love. I mean, I used an affirmative prayer today because, I'm not used to doing this that often. This is the second time, and you get a little anxious, and plus I had a Zoom call before this, so it's like, no. So I just said, there's one mind, God's in control, spirit, the universe, whatever, this is going to go beautifully because my intentions are all good. And it just calmed me down. I was calm. So, and then I want to just share how this has happened in my life over time. And before I started studying the principles of this great teaching by Ernest Holmes, Science of Mind, I was unsure of myself. Now, many young people are, and some are more confident than others. But I was very reluctant to try new experiences because I was afraid I might fail and look foolish, or worse. The worst thing was to look stupid. That was a big thing in the 50s. Where all these insecurities came from, I'm not sure. And I don't even think it's important at this point. But I'm going to point a finger at something. I was raised in a religion that taught me that I was born in original sin. I didn't do anything yet. I was just born, but I was already a sinner. I don't know how that works. And that each Sunday, and I went every Sunday because I was a practicing Catholic. I went to Catholic school. We pounded our chests out loud. We said, Lord, I am not worthy. Lord, I am not worthy. Lord, I am not worthy. Not exactly a confidence-producing mantra. So, I figured I'm not worthy. They're telling me that. I'm 7 years old, 8 years old. So that's a big thing to get over. So I would say, without hyperbole, without any example, that I was sleepwalking through my early adult years. I was just trying to avoid missteps. I didn't really trust my own decision-making and judgment. And I was always looking outside myself for acceptance. And I saw others as smarter, prettier, and more successful. I was a good student and I had a pretty good social life, but I felt like an imposter. After a series of traumas in my life, a divorce and the early death of my mother, I went on a search to find peace from the pain. Can I just interrupt here? No, I'm okay. It says mute up there. I don't know why it said mute. So what happened? So now I'm going through all this, and I'd been reading the Science of Mind magazine for a number of years. And then I learned that there was a spiritual center not far from me. And I didn't even go to the service. I decided to take a class. I didn't know anything about Ernest Holmes. I didn't know, I was reading the magazine, so I didn't know. And of course, it was the book, it was based on this book that I still is my favorite, This Thing Called You. And that's when I started delving into who I really was. And this book and this teaching changed my life. It was over time. This will not happen overnight, but over time. So what did I learn? I didn't know this. Nobody taught me this. I always thought I wasn't, I was a sinner and I wasn't worthy. I learned that there is a power and a presence that created me, that is in me, and that I am never separated from. Well, how comforting and cool is that? Wherever you are, whatever you're going through. Some call it God, some call it spirit, some call it the universe, or as Ernest Holmes calls it, this thing itself. Call it a thing itself. It doesn't matter what you call it, just use it. It's always there. And the best part is, it's never against us. And because of that, my word, your word, all our words have power because our word is the action of God through my thoughts. And then I learned that God, spirit, needs us to be expressed. So what did this beautiful affirmative prayer teach me? It freed me from fear and anxiety. It helped me get through a serious health challenge, breast cancer. And I really don't know where I'd be without it. So this form of prayer, it has just so beautiful and so loving and has so many benefits. It helps you become an explorer. You explore who you are. And some of the things that I try now that I never would have tried when I was younger. I do art now, and I take art classes. My house is filled with my paintings. And this is something that I literally avoided in college because I said, oh, I can't draw, I can't paint. Now I paint and I'm having a good time. I also took up acting. It was always something I always wanted to do, but I was afraid. So this form of prayer made me and will make you confident, and will you become a risk taker. You will get out of your comfort zone. I'm certainly no Georgia O'Keeffe or Meryl Streep, but I'm having a good time. And we talk about, and especially in this world today, there's so much fear and insecurity. And that fear and insecurity, and Jo shared her story, and we all have stories, like it just holds you back because then you're like stuck, you can't move. It holds you from experiencing life fully. You see yourself as small and insignificant. You look at other people, you go, well, they have talent, but I couldn't possibly do that, or that's not. No, that's not true. If you're called to do something, follow it up. So what do? Well, it helps you meet every situation with calm trust. And this is what I did today. I knew that divine intelligence was guiding me. I wasn't doing this thing by myself. I had spirit right there. And you're never alone, and every experience, and sometimes they don't look so good, but it's for your good. So the power of this affirmative prayer allows you to become the explorer, to explore your true spiritual identity. We all have buried and innate abilities and talents that we don't even know because we're, again, insecure. And one of the other things is it teaches us that we live in a world that is for us, not punishing, which is a lot of the teachings I grew up with. There were just levels of sin, and you had to be careful where you fell because you could be in hell or limbo or whatever, purgatory. But is loving and benevolent. What a beautiful thing, loving and benevolent. So it's a win-win. You can't lose with this. Now, as practitioners, we offer these prayers to you. You just go on the website, palmbeaches.org. Our numbers are there, our pictures. I have dark hair, now have light hair, but you recognize me. And you can request whatever you need. And we'd love to pray with you. And that's what we call this a prayer summit. So at this point, I'd like to do a treatment, what we call a treatment. We call affirmative prayer. You can call it prayer, call it whatever you want, but it works for health and well-being. So if we just kind of breathe and relax and just listen to these words and let them move through us. I know that there is only one power and presence in the universe. And this power and presence is perfect, is whole, and complete. And that everything and everyone were created from this one power and presence. So therefore, everyone is perfect, whole, and complete. And there's only one mind, God. And that mind is my mind now. So today, I identify my body with the action of God. I know that every aspect of my body corresponds to the radiant perfection of the living spirit. There is no disease, only ease, perfect circulation, perfect assimilation, perfect elimination. The word that I speak, and this is all we have to do is speak this word, is awakening the perfect health of spirit in me. The health of spirit is my health now. Knowing, and we were given this beautiful creative law that responds to my words. I know that this is true. So I give that thanks, knowing that this treatment, this prayer is complete and done. And in great thanksgiving, I release this treatment into the Lord, knowing it is complete. And I say, and so it is. Thank you. And now I'd like to turn it back to my dear friend Jo, and she's going to invite other people to take part, maybe have some remarks. And again, we invite you to go to the website and to request these prayers. All right, Jo, you're on.
Well, thank you so much, Aggie. That was a really very, very beautiful statement that you made tonight, and really is uplifting. And yes, we've enjoyed presenting, now and to you. And now we do invite any of you who might want to weigh in on the topic and give us a short statement of how using affirmative prayer helped you. If you'd like, you're welcome to. Is there anyone who'd like?
Janice. All right, hi, Janice.
Please unmute yourself, hon. There you go.
Well, I've been in this teaching for around 30 years, and I'm every day still learning and being reminded. And it's wonderful to have summits like this to be reminded of how powerful spiritual mind treatment is. And I want to use it more daily rather than pull it out in a crisis. I sometimes have a tendency to wait until oh no, and I use it, and then I'm always like, wow, this really works. I need to do this as a daily practice. And I think that's what really makes us grow, because I have done that before, and it's a tremendous evolution. I just recently had 2 health issues that I was concerned that there was not a real positive solution, but I treated for the most positive solution I could think of, and I got it for both of them. So it really does work.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Janice. It really, yes. Oh, we have another
Now, I just want to add, there may be people on here or on YouTube or whoever's going to be listening that may be totally unfamiliar with this, affirmative prayer. And you don't really have to know how to do it right now. You can request a prayer from one of us. And then you certainly can learn how to do it yourself. We're not here just to do, but you don't have to know. That's what we do, these prayer summits, to introduce this. And then if there is people who are unfamiliar with it, to request prayers, and we'll be delighted to share that with you. That's all I wanted to say. So you don't have to feel like, well, I don't know how to do this. I can't. We'll guide you. We'll do it for you. And then you can take classes with Reverend Judith, which we always do. We're always learning. And like Janice said, you got to keep doing it, but you know what it is? You want to. I don't do it reluctantly. I love taking the classes. I love practicing. I love being with other people like this. It just brings such joy into your life. That's it.
Thank you, Aggie. Yes, that's important to know that if you don't have any concept of the affirmative prayer, we can help you with that. Just call us. And is there anyone else who'd like to say a few words? My husband, actually, Renee. Okay. Renee is my husband. So yes, please unmute yourself, Renee.
Right. Yeah. No, I just wanted to say that I thought it was a great presentation on both your parts, reminding us of the truth, and I really appreciated listening to it and endeavoring to practice it more.
Bye.
So thank you so much for putting this on. I know it's work for you guys, and you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Well, if anyone else would like to speak, please speak. And I'm looking over there at Reverend Judith and Dr. Bob, but just jump in if you'd like.
We want to speak at the end, but I want to
Okay.
give everybody else an opportunity first, if anybody else would like to ask a question or share. I saw we did have someone who might have asked questions, but she left when you finished your presentation. So I'll check with her later. I do think we need to offer people an opportunity to ask questions. And thank you for doing that. I thought you did a wonderful presentation, both of you. It was very nice to see your professionalism and
your heart.
And your heart, yes.
It's obvious that you care. And a part of when we do treatment or prayer is not the words, but that the words embody the heart and the spirit that we want to enroll. And so when we say love conquers all, when we think about love and its ability to infuse itself into our life, it's a very powerful thing. We have to think of it in that context. And so what you're talking about, what the two of you did, was love-filled, intelligently filled, and it is what we really need to hear and be reminded of. And I've done this now for 30 years or more. I've been teaching it now for 30 years or more. And every time I hear one or the two of you speak, I'm reminded of things I didn't remember. And so this is really a process of not, for many of us, not learning, but remembering.
Mm-hmm.
And when we remember, there's a warm thing that happens inside of us. Oh, that's right. I forgot that. I don't have to do it all by myself.
Mm-hmm.
All I need to do is see it in my mind's eye, say it with my word, sense it with my heart, and claim it. And it's mine.
And I was also reminded, as you shared your stories, what this affirmative prayer did for me is helped me out of pain, helped me out of emotional pain. And that's what you both shared. It helped you out of pain. It helped me out of the pain of having a very sickly child. A mother of a sickly child just is in pain all the time. And, within 1 year of constant treatment, he started getting well and did become well. And it was a miracle. It was just miraculous. And then I learned to get out of the emotional pain that I was in, that, we end up putting up with situations that are very painful because we think we don't have a choice.
Mhm.
And then we learn that we're far more, we're far more powerful than we knew. And we see other options. So I see this teaching as a way for people to step out of pain and into the magnificence of who they truly are, which is one with the infinite.
There's a saying I've heard a long time ago, and I'm sure you've heard it too. Our thoughts are our prayers.
Mhm.
And if you think about the thinking that you're doing,
That's
if you were to have it come true, would it be the kind of coming true that you'd want to be a part of?
Mhm.
And what I've noticed is that I'm either thinking in positive terms or I'm thinking in negative terms, but I'm never not thinking.
Mhm.
And so the real question is, whenever I find myself circling the condition that I'm in with negativity or fear or worry, can I circle that same situation with intelligence and with confidence and with love and with kindness and with a knowing that I'm not alone facing whatever this is that I'm circling? And that changes everything. So prayer is not just an essential piece of what we need to do. Our thoughts are our prayers. And very often the prayers that we call prayers last for 2 minutes and our thoughts go on for hours. It would be helpful if our prayer went on for hours.
That's good.
So what you've done today, the two of you, is you've reminded us that our thoughts are our prayers, and the quality of our thinking demonstrates itself in our daily living, or is demonstrated in our daily living.
Mhm.
Hey, Reverend Bob and Judith. Joe and Aggie, your program tonight for our prayer summit was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for your individual contributions to share your wisdom and your life stories. And Judith, as you were talking about raising a son with illness, I was reminded of my own mother, who I saw suffer for years with two brothers, and both of my brothers were legally blind. And though it was a genetic disorder, nothing she could have personally done anything about, she blamed herself. And I saw the pain over the years, even though she had no way out or no explanation other than what the doctors told her, had she turned her pain, I think, over to God in a productive way, if she could have had some years where she was released of that guilt, her quality of life would have been so much better.
Mhm.
I regret that I didn't, know more about this to share that with her at the time. But we now can pick up this knowledge for ourselves and take this spiritual wisdom in a practical way and apply it. My one other thing I wanted to comment on my own journey is I kind of saw my growth using spiritual mind treatment a little bit like the rungs of a ladder. It gave me a path, and the path seemed upward, and the path seemed measured. And that was the science of thought that I was taught. I was taught by someone who was really a true scientist and a wonderful practitioner and minister. Her name was Dr. Thelma Carlisle. And she brought a logic, a rationale, and a coherent understanding to the 5 steps of treatment that I could understand. She explained it in a way that seemed purely logical, and it was a matter of now taking it from my head and bringing my heart to the words, feeling a conscious connection with a God that was present, not absent, not somewhere else, but that was present in my life. And though it took time, and I have to say a lot of practice, I climbed those rungs of that logical ladder, and it did take me upward and far beyond the results I first imagined. I cannot imagine not having this wonderful spiritual tool called affirmative prayer, or what we call spiritual mind treatment. So thank you, Joe and Aggie, for just a beautiful program. And thank you, Reverend Bob and Judith, for bringing this program to all of us and the public.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for each and every one of you who've given such beautiful comments that shows that we are all committed. Everyone on this Zoom is committed to growth and to just having more spiritual calmness and more spiritual living in our lives. And so we can all be very grateful. But we've enjoyed presenting, and we've enjoyed having you here. And we hope that whoever joins later on YouTube, I hope that you understand that you can call us as well. It's not just these people here on the Zoom. It's for anyone who wishes. CSL.org. And so now our 4th prayer summit is coming to a close. And we want to thank you all for joining us, and also for those tuning into YouTube. Thank you, Bob and Judith, for allowing us to have this forum and presenting it, helping us to present it. And in closing, I'd like to ask you please to join me in going within to that place where you are aware of being a part of the universe, the oneness we talked about this evening. Believe that you have the power to heal and to manifest a more abundant and vibrant life. Daily imagine your life unfolding in the manner you desire. Then give thanks that your good is already within you on some level. Be patient and know it must manifest. As within, so without. And then release any attachment to your pre-existing ideas of how that shows up in your life. And accept your good here and now. We bid you a good evening, and may peace abide with you always. Namaste.
And I'd just like to add that if we could all unite in prayers for peace in the Middle East, that is it needs so much peace right now. So include that in our daily prayers. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone. And have a wonderful, blessed evening. Good
And
night.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
was
you all.
great.
November 13th for our next one.
Thank you. Yes, the next one will be in November, and our topic will be gratitude. And there's been some requests that we change the second Monday, so you'll have to look for that on the website. That website is cslpalmbeaches.org. So we welcome you to always go there, and it will be on the front page what the upcoming events are. So we thank all of you, and we look forward to seeing you next month.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Bye.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.